Hello, welcome. I want to introduce myself. My name's Karen Scheuner, and I'm an anti-diet dietitian and certified intuitive eating coach. And I'm so happy that you're joining me on this 10-week journey, Intuitive Eating Deconstructed. Reclaim your life back from diet culture. Feel confident in your body without dieting. So we're going to meet for 10 weeks. And I'm going to go over the modules briefly right now. The first week module is unpacking the problem, diet culture. Okay, and I'm going to go over a little bit more in detail today on what that is. Next week, week 2, is restore trust with your body. Week 3 is make peace with food. Week 4 is arrest your inner food police. Week 5, discover fullness, pleasure, and satisfaction with eating. Week 6, how to make friends with your feelings. Week 7, body image reboot, stop blaming your body. Week 8, radical self-care and boundaries. Week 9, gentle nutrition basics and joyful movement. And week 10 is reclaiming your divine feminine. So, starting out, I would recommend that you get a journal, something like this, a little notebook where you can go deeper into the questions and the inquiry and the process that you're going to be embarking on. I'm going to send you weekly modules, and in the modules you're going to download PDFs, and the PDFs will have questions or worksheets, exercises that are going to help you along your journey to become a more intuitive eater. So having a separate journal will be really helpful. And also, if you get stuck in an area, if you're feeling confused or frustrated, write down your questions and bring that to the group. We're going to be meeting tomorrow at noon. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about week 1, which is diet culture. Okay, unpack the problem. All right, so let's start with the dieter's dilemma. Okay, so now I'm using, for the record, I didn't write the book, I'm not reinventing the wheel either, is Intuitive Eating. This is the book, or the Bible really. There's a new edition that just came out. I don't have it, but I really recommend you get a copy of this book. I'm also using the workbook right here, Intuitive Eating Workbook. So these are the resources. I will also be drawing upon other resources, as you can see, and integrating some of the teachings within the weeks that we'll be meeting. That intuitive eating doesn't cover off on everything. They're great. It's great, and especially with regard to body image, I have other resources and tricks up my sleeve, so to speak, that I'm going to be teaching you on how to really help with the body image and resetting that. So I would recommend that you set aside, I would say 1 to 2 hours a week, something like that, for the program. If you can, ideally set aside a little bit of time every day. I would say maybe half an hour if you can, just to do the readings, to look at the worksheets, the modules, do some journaling. You'll get more out of the program the more you put in, obviously, and then bringing those things to the group where we can all support you in whatever is coming up or whatever you're stuck on. We're gonna get you support and figure some things out. So I want to start talking first about the dieter's dilemma. So most of you have been on the journey around dieting, and you know that journey really well. And the culture that we live in is toxic and promotes body shame. It promotes dieting. It promotes listening to authorities outside of ourselves rather than trusting our bodies with food and eating. So the dieter's dilemma is driven by this desire to want to get smaller, to lose weight, to feel as if something is wrong with your body. Your body is a problem, needs to be fixed, right? So with that, you come into this cycle thinking you're not okay, you need to lose weight, you're feeling fat, and then the next step is going on a diet of some kind, okay? And again, this is culturally reinforced and normalized, okay, for most people. I think it's like one in or half of women are dieting on any given day, and like a quarter of men are on a diet on any given day. Although I think that might be increasing for men. So the culture really reinforces this as normal. It's something we all should be doing. It's considered healthy even, right? So step 2 in this dieter's dilemma, and let me just show you a little diagram so you know what I'm talking about. It looks like this, and you have a copy of this in the PDF that I sent you, is that there's a desire to be thin. You enter the cycle, you start with a diet, any kind of diet, doesn't matter what it is, even if it's Noom or paleo or keto, it's all a diet, the same as diet is a diet. And that causes cravings, reduced self-control, that leads to loss of control or overeating, and then it's regaining that weight loss. So that's the vicious cycle. Everybody that goes on a diet at some point in time will get into the cycle. And the problem is that they blame themselves rather than the diet. In the diet industry, which is a huge money-making machine, $70 billion industry, also doesn't want you to blame the process of dieting. They want to blame you, which is why they keep offering a new diet every other month, it seems, or every more frequent than that. So that is the problem we have, is that we're addicted to dieting, right? And the allure of dieting, the seduction of dieting is very, very strong. If you want to lose weight, totally normal. Pretty much everyone I work with wants to lose weight. And again, we don't blame yourself, or don't be hard on yourself for having this desire. We're just going to unpack it a bit more and really look at, like, what does that represent, and going deeper to do some decoding around that, okay? So be gentle with yourself if you're just starting out in this process and the pull to go back to dieting or the pull to want to lose weight is really strong. It's supposed to be strong. It is strong for everyone. I mean, it's really not supposed to be strong, ideally, but it's the world we live in. It's normalized, okay? So that the dieter's dilemma is a cycle that you're in, that you've been in, helps kind of understand the process here, and why it's such a vicious cycle, right? And then the next thing to take an inventory of yourself around is really looking at your history around dieting, okay? So there's 4 steps to reject the diet mentality, okay? The first step is recognize and acknowledge the damage that diets have caused. So taking an inventory around what have you noticed has caused harm from a diet that you've been on, maybe recently, and really looking at, like, well, if dieting is part of the problem, can it be part of the solution, right? What are the things that you've noticed have been the effect of dieting for you personally? I'll name a few examples. Chronic dieting teaches the body to retain more fat when you start eating again. Chronic dieting slows the rate of weight loss with each successive attempt to diet. Decreased metabolism, increased binges and cravings. Those to name a few, okay? Dieting also psychologically causes stress, feelings of failure, lowered self-esteem, and social anxiety. Dieters feel a loss of control over eating, and this erodes self-trust and confidence. One of the things that intuitive eating does is it increases your confidence around eating. It restores trust, increases self-esteem, and this has been studied. We have good research, over 100 studies now that support intuitive eating and looking at these markers that improve over time with intuitive eating. So that's the good news. Number 2 is be aware of diet mentality, traits, and thinking. So this is an important one because in our culture, we're taught that we need to be hard on ourselves to affect change, right? It's like a militaristic mentality of, no pain, no gain, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You have to hate yourself to change your body, right? And it's so painful because when we're really hard on ourselves, it actually does the opposite. It causes us to sabotage our efforts. It causes us to do behaviors that we don't want to be doing, right? And so dieting is going to be a setup for you to rebel, right? To cause a sense of wanting to take back your autonomy, wanting to reclaim your birthright around eating and how much to eat. No one is really in charge of your body but you. And all the diets that you follow, you're following an external set of rules that send yourself the message that you can't be trusted, that you're not really in control of food, and that your appetite needs to be, controlled. So eventually, when we follow this, we will rebel, right? Because some part of us is like, don't tell me what to do. I want to be trusted. And you're going to reclaim that autonomy back. That's essentially why diets don't work, right? And of course, the culture blames you rather than the process of dieting. And that's why it's so painful. Okay. All right. So let's see. Number 3 is, real quick, covering off on intuitive eating, with this rebelliousness, right? That when you start to learn intuitive eating, there is no need to rebel because you're the one who's in charge and there's no rules to break, right? And that's incredibly liberating, all right? If you haven't experienced that yet, that's okay. At some point you will, and we're going to get you there. It's just this sense of like, oh, I can have a cookie again tomorrow if I want. I don't need to eat all 10 of them now or the whole box now. I can relax. It's okay. It's not going anywhere. That is restoring trust. That's bringing that autonomy back to your own body where it belongs rather than giving it away over and over again, right? No need to rebel if there's no rules to break. Okay. So intuitive eating is also not about failing or willpower or control. It's about self-trust, self-care. It's about growth and learning. Anytime you have a setback, you don't beat yourself up for failing. You think about, oh, what happened there? You get curious. What did I need that I couldn't get in the moment? What else happened? What was I feeling? So you start to do this inquiry, and you get information that's going to help you grow and shift and do behaviors that you actually want to be doing, right? So that's the beauty of intuitive eating, is that you cannot fail. There are no mistakes. There's only opportunities for growth. Okay, number 3 on 4 steps on how to reject the diet mentality is get rid of the dieter's tools. Dieters' tools. Okay. So dieters tend to rely on external measures to regulate their eating, like how much they're eating, at what time they're eating. Maybe they weigh themselves, or they weigh food. There's just a lot of external measures, right? One of the things about the scale that is important to make a note of is that when you weigh yourself, what I see has been a phenomena happen over time, is that what you appreciate appreciates. Okay, so that's kind of a tricky way of looking at it, but let me explain it. The more you weigh, the more you'll weigh. So the more focus and attention you place on your weight, the more weight you're going to get for most people. Okay, there's exceptions to this, of course. But this was my experience because I worked for Weight Watchers for a number of years, and my late teens, early 20s, and I got to my highest weight when I was working for Weight Watchers. And that's something that happens to so many dieters, that they're jumping on the scale, and over time their weight just goes up. And we have research to support that diets cause weight gain over time. Okay, so let that sink in. I know it's hard to receive these messages. I know it's hard because you haven't been offered intuitive eating as a solution, as an alternative. So it's really scary to let go. And of course, we know the addiction to dieting and addiction to weighing is very strong. So just know that this is going to take time. Be patient, and one day you'll get there. I promise. Well, I can't promise anything, but if you keep on the path, it'll happen. I'm pretty sure. And if you have any questions about that, let's talk about it in the group. Okay, so get rid of the dieter's tools. This is not an easy thing to do. I want you to take an inventory, and I sent you a PDF on this, is looking at your tools that you have in your home. Maybe it's a scale, maybe it's diet foods, maybe it's magazines or cookbooks, maybe it's people you follow on social. Okay, so just do an inventory of that, and see if you can maybe get rid of one of these tools. Take your time, pick maybe one that you can commit to, and go at your own pace. Okay, so I recommend the scale. The crying machine is what I like to call it. All right, so that's number 3, is get rid of the dieter's tools. Okay, and number 4 is becoming more compassionate towards yourself. Okay, so self-compassion is something that, honestly, this could be a 10-week course just by itself. And I am not the expert in self-compassion. I am learning just as you are. It is a really long lifetime of a journey of learning self-compassion. This is the book I recommend. Kristen Neff is the researcher, the main researcher that I know of, and her book's great. And the reason we want to talk about self-compassion with intuitive eating is that so many people in this stage, in the beginning, are so incredibly hard on themselves. They don't know how to access a kinder, more compassionate voice of understanding. What they hear all the time is the critic, right? And it's very abusive, it's loud, it's unforgiving, and it shames you, right? And it makes you feel small, and it sucks your power down, it sucks you down. And in order to reclaim your power back, we must, this is so important, we have to start thinking about how do we cultivate a more kinder, compassionate voice from within. Okay? Not an easy thing to do, but we're going to start with a series of questions that you can ask yourself that's going to help you develop self-compassion. Okay? So one of the questions that can help with this is that you think about a time when you were struggling with your eating. Okay? And this is where your journaling comes in. How do you typically respond? Write down what you say or do to yourself, and notice the tone of your thoughts. Then I want you to think about, if your friend or loved one was struggling with their eating or their weight, how would you respond? What would you say to them? Notice the tone that you'd use to your friend. Is there a difference in how you talk to your friend versus how do you talk to yourself? Okay, so you see where I'm going with this, right? Your journal is going to be helpful to write out some of these things. And this is, by the way, painful work. This is not easy work. So if you're feeling resistant, if you're feeling, maybe you don't want to do it, or it's too painful, That's okay. That's normal. Not easy work again. And this is the work, right? This is why you're here. Let's do this. Like start with one phrase or thought that you can identify that you are really hard on yourself around with food or eating, okay? Maybe just start there. One thought, write it down. If you're struggling and you need more support, guess what? We're gonna help you. We're gonna do this together in the group in when we meet tomorrow. If you're getting stuck, bring it to the group. We can all work on this together. Okay, so compassion is the fourth step, okay? Now, these steps are going to be circular, meaning that it's not a linear progression on how to get through to the next stages with intuitive eating. You may circle back, you may jump forward, whatever. It's circular, so there's no really order to it. So just know that. This is why it's messy. Intuitive eating is messy. And that if you're struggling with it in any way, totally normal, because this is new territory, right? That you've maybe never done before. So that's about all I want to say for the module for this week. Again, you have 5 modules. Download them, or the PDFs rather. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Modules are weekly. You get PDFs within the modules. Download the PDFs and do some of the exercises, answer some of those questions. If you're getting stuck, bring it to the group. We're all here in this healing vortex together, which is why groups are amazing, because we're all going to be feeding off each other's shared experience and energies, and what's helpful for somebody to hear is also helpful for the next person to hear, right? So on that note, I want to welcome you again. And if you have any questions, you can also DM me through the app, Practice Better. Anytime, that's fine. I'm here for you. And otherwise, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we will continue this journey together. All right.